Hi everyone, my name's Hannah and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I wanted to go through some of the medications that I've tried for ulcerative colitis. Obviously different things work for different people, no two journeys will be the exact same. So mine started in, I can't remember exactly what month, but it was the summer of 2015 and I had about 2 weeks worth of diarrhea and like intense stomach pains, and it just kind of went away by itself. So didn't really think anything of it. You know, you get stomach bugs every now and again, so didn't think anything of it. It came to, I think it was about end of January, beginning of February 2016, and I'd started to get diarrhea again, and it had gone on for about 6 weeks at this point, and I thought I should probably ring the doctor. 6 weeks is a bit long, it hasn't gone away by itself, and it seemed to be getting a bit worse. I was going to the toilet about 10 times a day. The urgency, the pain, it was kind of getting worse and worse. So the doctor at that point had said it could be a whole host of things. They didn't want to kind of narrow it down without any more information. So they sent me for a blood test and a stool sample, which they're fun if you've ever had to do one of those. And the results came back that they thought, they couldn't confirm at that point, but they were pretty sure it was ulcerative colitis. Now, ulcerative colitis is an autoimmune condition, so your immune system just starts to attack your colon. For some people, it can be genetic, so if a parent has it, their child could potentially have it, whereas in my case, they have no idea why. No one in my family, or even on my husband's side, which I know that's not a blood relative, but even on my husband's side and mine, no one has ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, which they both come under the umbrella of inflammatory bowel disease. So they said for me it was just one of those things. I do also have other autoimmune conditions, so they've said I am just more prone to them for whatever reason. Again, we don't know why. For me it's not genetics, it's just luck of the draw, I suppose. So the doctors sent me for a colonoscopy in, when did that appointment come through? I think it was around October of 2016 or September, somewhere around there, that I had the actual colonoscopy. Now that's a camera that goes up your bottom through your colon, just has an investigate, has a look, and they also take some biopsies with like a little tool that comes out and just snips some biopsies. It's not pleasant. I mean, well, because my dad had had one years before and he'd said he was fine with his because his was just like a general routine sort of checkup. But obviously at the time we didn't know how bad and how damaged my colon was. So I was expecting, oh, it's not going to be that bad. I opted for the sedation and the gas and air just in case, because I don't have that high of a pain threshold. And the bowel prep is not nice. Obviously they don't want to put a camera up there and it just be full of poo. So you have to drink this bowel prep the night before, and you can't eat. I think if you have a morning appointment, you can't eat from about 6 p.m. the night before, and you have the bowel prep to flush out your system. So make sure you're near a toilet for that because it can come on really quick. Now, unfortunately for me, I don't like lemon. I just don't like it. Whenever there's lemon sweets, they're always left. My husband has those. And the bowel prep that I'm always given is lemon flavour. I know they have orange, but they just never have it in stock whenever I've needed it in the past. So I've always had lemon, and it's just, I don't like lemon. It's gross tasting anyway, but just with the lemon. So what I used to do, because it's 2 litre drinks, like separately 2 litres, I'd put about 200 millilitres into a glass, because they advise you drink one of those, I think it's about every 20 minutes, and then glasses of water in between to stay hydrated. So what I found actually helped a bit was if I got a straw and kind of put it as far back in my mouth as possible to miss out as many taste buds as I can and just try and drink it that way. It did help a bit actually. There wasn't as much lemon flavour, but it's never pleasant, but it's one of those things you have to do. So colonoscopy time, had a little cannula in my hand, had the sedation, had the gas and air. Now I didn't know what to expect. They said it would be uncomfortable, and they said depending how damaged and ulcered my colon is, it might hurt, hence why we went with the sedation option. Oh boy, did it hurt. My colon was a mess. It was very ulcered, very damaged, and I don't fully remember all of it, but I remember about a minute in letting out kind of like a mixture of a scream and just a moan of pain, like a really weird noise, and I just started to cry. It was that painful, and the doctors said, we've seen everything we need to see, we'll just be 1 more minute getting a couple biopsies and then we'll be done, because they said they didn't want to go too far into the colon because they could then cause more damage, so they didn't want to do that, which I was very grateful for. And then the results from that came back, yes, it is ulcerative colitis. So the main difference with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's is with Crohn's disease, it can affect anywhere from your mouth to your rectum, the entire digestive system, whereas ulcerative colitis is just within the colon and the rectum. That's the main difference. I'll link the Crohn's and colitis page down below, and they go much more in depth into things, but as a main difference. So they got to about halfway round my colon, so obviously you've got the rectum at the bottom, and then it doesn't go this high, but the camera doesn't go that low, and the colon kind of goes around. They kind of got to the first bend, and they said it was just a mess, so they didn't go any further than that. I don't think at any point they ever went further than that, so I've had a couple and they've all been very unpleasant. So the first thing they did was sent me to the chemist, because this was done at Cannock Hospital. I'm currently under New Cross in Wolverhampton, but the procedures were done at Cannock Hospital. So they sent me straight down to their pharmacy to pick up some steroids, prednisolone, which I'd been on them in the past for other autoimmune conditions, and they're amazing and horrific at the same time. They work, but the side effects of them, moon face, so your face kind of blows up a bit, hungry all the time, quite grumpy. With me, it wasn't necessarily being grumpy all the time, it was whatever mood I was in, that mood was elevated. So if I was happy, I was really happy, if I was sad, I was really sad, and if I was grumpy, I was really grumpy. Really annoying. I just wanted to eat everything in sight, because they put me on the highest dose possible to try and get the inflammation down. Moon face was back. I wanted to eat everything in sight, because with ulcerative colitis as well, because you're going to the toilet so often, at this point I was going at least 10 times a day. It's obviously very urgent. It's pretty much diarrhea, so it's loose, it's urgent, so you obviously start to lose weight with that. Then with the steroids, you'd start eating everything and just putting it all back on, but it's not necessarily good weight with steroids. Now when they put me on those, I'd say about 3 weeks until it was my next gastro appointment, it did help a bit. It didn't help as much as they were hoping it would. It helped with the pain actually, because I used to get such awful pain when I needed to go to the toilet. It was the sort of pain where it would just stop you in your tracks, and you just kind of, worse than any period pain I'd ever felt. It helped with the pain. It didn't really help with anything else. But I mean, I was glad it hurt less, which is a plus. So the first medication that the doctors tried was Pentasa, which they explained it's kind of like a ladder. They were going to start with the bottom, with the weaker ones, and then they were, each time it didn't work, they'd go further up to kind of the big boy medications. So Pentasa was the first one, and it was really strange. It came in a packet that's almost like, you know those sugar packets, the long thin sugar packets where you just rip the top off and put the sugar in. It came in packets like that. You'd empty it into your mouth and then gulp down water, and that's how you took it. And they were like tiny little granules, so that was quite easy to take. They did warn that either the casings or a lot of them would come out in the toilet, so they said if I could, try and take it as soon as I've been, so gone to the toilet, take it then, because then hopefully I won't go again for at least half an hour. Sometimes that didn't work, because in the early days it was all over. I tended to be worse in the morning, like as soon as I woke up I needed the toilet straight away, and it tended to kind of slow down a little bit around 3 p.m, and then till night time I wouldn't go as often. So the mornings were not very nice, and then during the night I was often going to the toilet as well, which meant sleep kind of went out the window, which wasn't very nice. Just all around not very nice. So Pentasa didn't work. Tried that for a couple of months, didn't really do anything. I was actually getting worse and worse, so they were like, well, my colon was clearly too damaged for the Pentasa to take any sort of effect, so that was stopped. They then thought azathioprine, because previously with a different autoimmune condition, azathioprine got that under control like a dream, and I don't remember having any side effects with that actually. It was my liver, my immune system thought my liver needed to go, which obviously it doesn't, and azathioprine worked a dream, so they thought, okay, we'll try azathioprine next, give that a go. And every time I started a new medication, I would have weekly blood tests just to make sure nothing was going wrong, or if I started getting deficient in anything, because my iron levels would start to drop. So they would talk about potentially needing to do an iron infusion at some point, or because the problem was eating leafy greens, which have iron in them, would make me need the toilet more. So it was that balance of, well, I need iron, but to get the iron is going to make me go to the toilet more. So it was just a balancing act. And weirdly, they don't know why. Again, one of those things. The azathioprine started to send my liver weird. My inflammation levels from my liver started to go up, and they thought, okay, because before it had brought it down for my liver, whereas now, for some reason, my liver had started to react to it in a very negative way. So they just straight away stopped me on the azathioprine. They were like, we're not going to risk anything coming back with the autoimmune liver condition, so they stopped that. And we then looked at Humira, which is like a self-injector. The best way I can describe Humira is it looked like an EpiPen. So it was like a long tube with a button at the top. You take the cap off, put it in your leg or your stomach, press it, needle goes in, wait 10 seconds, and it's done. So we had a nurse come round to the house, showed me, my husband and my mum how to do it, because I don't like needles, never liked them, and I've had a few really, really bad blood tests, and it kind of sticks in your mind, and then you see a needle and think, no thank you. So the idea of having to put a needle into myself terrified me. So my husband said, if it needs doing, I'll do it. If I have to hold you down, I'll do it. So the nurse came around, she was lovely. She got like a tester one where there was no needle to it, just to kind of get the process of doing it correctly. Already had some of the medication, because it was delivered to home here. Hopefully moving house soon though. We should already be in our new house. But we're not there yet. Hopefully in a couple of weeks though. So that'll be enough stress. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So Humira would get delivered. Now I can't remember the actual medical. Humira is like its commercial name. I'll pop the word just down here of what the actual word is. Ends in mab, I think. One of those long, ridiculous words. That would get delivered here because it needed to be kept in the fridge. So I would always try and, because at the moment I'm working from home with everything going on. At this point I was at work, so thankfully work have been amazing with all this stuff. And they would give me a 2-hour delivery slot, so I would just come home for that 2 hours, have the Humira, put it in the fridge, go back to work. So you'd get it out of the fridge about 20 minutes before you were going to inject. Now it would either be in the top quartile of your leg, or you could do it in your stomach. They said whatever you prefer. I have no idea why, but whenever I did it in my stomach, it really stung and it left like a purple mark. Whereas whenever I did it in my leg, I barely felt it. I think I favoured my left leg. I alternated left leg, then right leg, then left, then right. I think it was my left leg that I barely ever felt it for some reason. No idea why. The right leg was a bit of a pinch, and then the stomach, for me personally, it felt horrible. So I gave up on that. Now the Humira, it did help a bit. It did. Now fast forward to August 2017. It was 1 month away from our wedding. The hospital knew all along it was a wedding abroad. We were getting married in Walt Disney World in their wedding pavilion because we're both big Disney fans. It had been planned since 2014, so years in the making, years in the planning. It got to, I think it was literally August the 1st or August the 2nd. I had a gastro appointment to discuss how the Humira was doing. At this point, I had lost quite a bit of weight. I wasn't sleeping the best, because obviously having to get up during the night to go to the toilet, everything was just kind of spiralling and getting worse and worse. And I was going to the toilet at least 20 times a day at that point. It wasn't good at all. The Humira had helped. It was a lot worse than that, but it was still at a really, really bad level, and I was still losing weight. So this appointment, the doctor said, right, we're going to admit you into hospital for a week, get you on IV steroids, and if it doesn't help, I'm not going to let you fly. Now, at that point, it was a case of, I get it, I was really ill, but for 3 years I've been planning this wedding. There was like 16 of us going. Everyone had booked holidays, everything was all done. It was like a month to go before the wedding, and it was just that panic of, you telling me I can't get married in Disney that I've been planning for 3 years? Oh my goodness. So I know priorities, but at the time that's all I could think about, so I just kind of broke down. Spent, was it 8 days in hospital in New Cross on IV steroids? That did wonders. It brought it down to about going 5 or 6 times a day. So they were really happy with that. They gave me a couple infusions while I was in there as well, because I can't remember exactly what it was. I know one of them was potassium that I was really low on, so they gave me a potassium infusion as well. And I had another colonoscopy while I was in there, and they'd said just how bad it was. And because I think at that point I'd been on the Humira for about 6-ish months, and they'd said they would have hoped to have seen it starting to work at this point. They would have expected more if it was going to work, but it was the sort of drug that took months for it to take effect. Thankfully, a combination of the IV steroids and then going back on the prednisolone at the highest dose possible meant they were happy for me to fly and go get married. So just because, I'll pop a quick Disney wedding picture up. There, probably both, just because. So that was fun. Now, I put weight on after that. It was the next couple of months, I must have put at least a stone on, because the prednisolone, coupled with the big buffets that you get in the US, it was just kind of food, but it did help. And then it kind of plateaued out that I was going about 10 times a day when I had stopped the steroids and it was just the Humira. They then tried to add in azathioprine again, just to see, and again went back to the weekly blood tests. Thankfully, my liver was fine. It didn't affect my liver at all, but it didn't do anything for the colitis. So they said, okay, we're going to have to stop Humira. And then it got to the big boys. Big boy, big drug. The vedolizumab. That one I remember, that name I remember, because it was the infusion that you had to be admitted as a day patient, have a cannula, and it's an infusion. So again, not liking needles, but if it was going to work, we were going to give it a try. Now, just before I started the Humira, I used to have, I mean, obviously it's coming back now, I used to have really, really long, thick blonde hair. Obviously I bleach my hair, but it used to be really thick and blonde, and it was like that for the wedding. And when they admitted me, it slowly started to fall out. So, I mean, bless him, when I'd go in the shower, my husband would then have to empty clumps of hair from out the drain. It wasn't nice at all, but bless him, he was great with it. And it just wasn't nice. And obviously, like, then brushing your hair, and it was all in the brush. So I went to my hairdresser's. She could tell straight away that I'd not been well. She knew a bit of what was going on, but when she saw how much of my hair had fallen out, I'd lost at least half of it. It just started to fall out, and my eyebrows as well, which is why I kind of draw them on with makeup, because half of them just aren't there anymore. They've never come back, but I can cover it with makeup, so it's not too bad. And she said to me, honestly, you need to just cut your hair short and potentially go darker, because obviously bleaching your hair is never the best for it. So she said short and potentially dark hair. So at this point I'd been growing my hair for years, and again, I know it's vain, but it's just one of those things. I've been growing it for so many years, to then have to go like just above my shoulders, I thought, I really don't want it, but I had to, so I did. So I'm going to pop a quick picture up of how long my hair was, and you can kind of see how thin it is there, but then another picture of, you can see in the light just how thin my hair got there, and obviously that's cut short. It's doing quite well at the moment, actually. It's a lot thicker at the moment. Well, I mean, I blow dried it this morning, so it's a bit voluminous at the moment, so it looks thicker than it is, because a couple of months ago it did start to thin out again, so I'm keeping an eye on it. I might need to go, probably won't go shoulder length again, but I might need to kind of get rid of that much soon. we'll see. I just don't want it to get to that really thin stage again. So I did that, and then went like a darker blonde and eventually went to red. I tend to flip between red hair and then blonde hair. So if you ever see me with red hair, it's because it's falling out. Back to the vedolizumab. So I was kind of, at the time, this was the last hope. This was the strongest drug that they had. This was the last available drug that they had. They had a lot of more further down the ladder sort of drugs, but because I'd already had Humira, there was no point in going down a step. So it was then vedolizumab or nothing. So I did at the time take pictures at each infusion just because I kind of wanted to document it, because I was really hoping that this one would work. So I'll start popping pictures up from wherever they'll go of that. So the first one, I think the actual infusion itself took either half an hour or an hour, I can't remember which, but for the first appointment they keep you an extra 2 hours just to make sure that you don't have a reaction to it. Now in the first hour my blood pressure dropped, not dangerously, but dropped enough that they were concerned, so they kept me there another hour until it had gone back up. Because I don't really drink hot drinks, and I'll sometimes have a hot chocolate if it's near Christmas or like winter, but I don't really like hot drinks that much. So they thought it was really strange. They were like, well, you need to have something to drink, what can we get you? And I said, can I just have a cup of milk? And they were like, okay, but I just like milk, which is good for your bones, which is weird. I have such joint issues, especially my knees. I'll come on to that in a different video though. So there was me with a little glass of milk and some of those biscuits, and they said it would go either one way after the infusions. I would either just be on a high and feel like I just had buckets of energy, or I'd crash and just want to sleep. And I always crashed and just wanted to sleep. So I tended to have the infusions in the morning. I'd just take the day off work, come home and just sleep, and then sleep through the night as well. That's just how it affected me. They said some people are on a bit of a high, so they'll just be really excitable and feel like they've got loads of energy. Unfortunately for me, mine was tired and I want to sleep. So I must have been on the infusion, it was at least a year. I've got a feeling it was near 18 months, because they were trying everything to get it to work, but it just wasn't going to work. And then the appointment where I thought they were going to say I needed surgery, they had said a brand new drug had just been approved. What was its name? Tofacitinib had just been approved, and it was also one of the higher hitter drugs. It wasn't one of the lower ones. So they said, we'll give it a try. If this doesn't work, it's going to be surgery. They had said everybody at this point, I can't remember what date, it must have been mid to the end of 2019 at this point, and they had said everybody so far that had it was working for them. So I started to build up a bit of hope. Obviously for me it didn't do a thing for my colitis, and it actually gave me nasty headaches. It was not very nice at all. So they were like, okay, clearly no medication is going to work for me. Unfortunately, it was just one of those things. So I ended up having to have the surgery. I no longer have a colon, I now have a stoma. I'll pop a quick picture up of surgery day, which was, what was the exact day? February 2020. I can't remember, the 17th. I think it was Monday the 17th of February 2020 that I had my stoma surgery. I'll go through that and the recovery in a different video, because obviously going into a lockdown when you've just had major surgery, that wasn't fun. I'll do that in a different video though. So that was my medical journey. Like I said, different people will have things work for them. I know a couple of people personally who have also got ulcerative colitis, and at the moment drugs are working perfectly for them, so hopefully it carries on with that. It's just one of those things. Sometimes the lower drugs will work perfectly, sometimes the higher drugs will, and then sometimes, like me, nothing works. I often think it's because they said my colon is so bad, I just think nothing was strong enough to ever really dampen down on it. Every now and again I'd have slight relief when I started a new drug, but not enough to ever actually go into remission, because ulcerative colitis is a lifelong condition. There's no cure for it, but you can go into remission and not have any symptoms for years, and then it could flare up again. It might not. It's one of those big unknown things, which I don't like the unknown. So for me, it's quite frustrating at times, because it's one of those things, like my autoimmune liver condition right now, it's been in remission for a couple of years. They've said at any point it can come back. And because I've had a liver condition and ulcerative colitis, the one doctor did say that I am at much higher risk of future liver issues, which again, they've said they have no idea if or when it would ever happen. It's just one of those things. So I think in the next video, I'm going to go over what I actually keep in my stoma changing bag, just to show you the different items that I personally use. Different people prefer different items. I think I'll do that in the next video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!